There we go. Beautiful. Thank you. All right, guys. I'm glad you're here tonight. If you weren't here earlier, this is our last normal 712 of the semester, so I'm excited about getting to do all this. We're going to do a lot of stuff together this summer. It's going to be great. But let me just say, you guys have been, it's my first semester, somebody else's first semester too, and I've loved it. It's been such a good year, and I'm so grateful for y'all, and very, very excited about the future. I hope you are too. But we're going to wrap up Sex to the Max tonight. Now, some of y'all are bummed about that. Some of y'all are thrilled about that. You would rather talk about grandma than talk about sex at this point, and I get it. But we're going to kind of wrap it up. Every time I've done this series, I've wrapped it up a little bit differently, and I was kind of wrestling some with kind of how to land the plane with you this week. And so we're going to do a shotgun blast hodgepodge kind of thing. We're going to talk about several, not little things, they're all pretty big things, but just cover just a little, a swath of things. I like to call it the whatabouts, as in several things that some of you have asked me specifically, hey, what about this particular thing, or what about this other thing, or for instance, we're going to talk about homosexuality tonight, or we're going to talk about sexual abuse tonight, and we're going to talk about dating tonight, which is kind of fun, and we're going to talk about marriage tonight, which is definitely fun. And just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to show you a picture of me and Becca the day that we got married, which is kind of fun. So you can see how skinny and goofy, and actually you get to see what I look like with hair. So, that's fun too. Yeah, I did. So, here we go. Go ahead and go to the next one. Here's the whatabouts. Again, we're talking about dating and homosexuality. Those are big deals. Going to talk about sexual abuse. That one's not fun at all. We're going to talk about sexting, which is no fun. I know we talked about porn a little bit last week. We're going to just cover that again real briefly. So, and then yes, we are going to talk about marriage, right? So those are the whatabouts, things that we need to wrap up that I would be remiss not to mention, and there'll be some added bonuses in there too. So let's jump in. Go to the next one. All right, girls. And guys too. Maybe how many of y'all like to window shop? Window shopping. I like to window shop. So this is not a. But who likes to window shop? Okay. Okay. If you don't know what window shopping means, I don't mean like you're going to Lowe's to find new windows for your house. Although technically that would be window shopping. Window shopping is when you have no money, or you don't have enough money, but you go to the store anyway just to kind of look around and see what they have. Okay, going to the mall is like the ultimate window shopping, right? Becca and I were talking about it. We went to the parks, I guess a couple of weeks ago. And we kind of laughed because there's basically like 5 stores in the parks that we actually go in. The rest of the time we just walk around and smell the cookies, right? And then, cookies, and that's funny because I think there's 4 cookie shops in there. And all of them tempt us. But the deal is, if you like to window shop, you know this. When you see all the fun stuff, whether it's the clothes or the shoes or the sporting equipment or the cookies or whatever, or even when you walk by the theater and you see all the movies that you haven't seen yet, being in that realm, what does that make you want to do? Do it. Spend that money, right? Yeah, Jackson's making it rain. That's funny. Yeah, they make it rain. Okay, the problem is, if you don't have any money, what do you got to do? Do what? Okay, you got to make some money. There's that. If you have a credit card, you can go the credit card route. No, that's not smart, but you can't go the credit card route. Jackson says steal. Yeah, we got shoplifting. There's that option. Go into debt. Say again. Look, you can look and then leave. You can look and leave. But again, those of you that like to look and leave, be honest. Even after you've left, do you still want that thing? No. Depending on what it is. There's some things you can window shop for and just get out of sight, out of mind. But every once in a while you find something you really, really want. If you don't have the money for it, you still go home. And maybe you put it on the Christmas list. That's what my kids do. My kids already have their Christmas list planned out. And it'll be a different Christmas list next month. Some of y'all may still do that, right? Yeah. Cadence and Zion's birthday is next week. And so they're already, 2 weeks from now, they're already telling us what they want for their birthday. And that'll be different 2 or 3 times between now and then. So you can make your Christmas list. But by and large, we go home and we just want. And it starts to eat at us, right? Anybody know what the word coveting means? Coveting, C-O-V-E-T-I-N-G, coveting, as in thou shalt not covet. Bingo, it means to want something you can't have. Now coveting might mean it's something your neighbor has and you want it so badly you're willing to do anything, including stealing to get it, which is also breaking another commandment. Or maybe it is something at the store that you just can't have because you don't have the money, but your heart is just full of a desire for that thing. So it's right there in the Ten Commandments. Coveting is a sin. Well, it's not the only key to coveting, but one of the biggest keys to not coveting is don't window shop. I know that's not easy because the mall is a fun place to hang out. Walmart's a fun place to hang out too, for that matter. Walmart will make you, or Target, or fill in the blank, whatever your store. Actually, my store is Best Buy. Right? I go to Best Buy at least once a week. So watch this. Listen to me. Here's what that has to do with dating. All right? Dating for you is just like window shopping. And what I mean by that is this. In relation to this sex thing, remember we talked about last week, we talked about the hormones, the oxytocin thing, and the vasopressin thing. Guys, we went a little bit more into, okay? And literally, God has designed our bodies that when you reach out and touch somebody, God has designed our bodies that hormones are released into our brain to cause us to care for and literally be bonded emotionally and mentally with that person, which is an awesome thing in the marriage context. But in the non-marriage context, it's not such a good thing. Especially if said person that you've been cuddling with, maybe you haven't actually had sex, but you've done a lot of cuddling with them or making out with them or whatever, right? If you've done those things and then you break up, and then you date somebody else and you do some more of those things, and then you break up, and then you date somebody else and you do those things and you break up again. No kidding, when the day comes when you do finally get married, listen to me, the day comes when you do finally get married, and it will happen for the vast majority of, if not all of you. I suspect all of you in this room will get married. Okay? Although we're going to talk about marriage here in a little while. No kidding, guys, and I'm not joking, and I'm saying this not like theoretically. I'm telling you this because this is true for me and lots and lots and lots and lots of students that I've pastored and then married over the course of 18 years as I've been doing this. And some of you are looking at me the way that I looked at my youth pastor when he taught me this principle. Oh, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about, right? I promise I know what I'm talking about. And I'm saying it with pain in my heart. There are 3 human beings on planet Earth that I've kissed beside, well, 4 or 5 if you count mom and grandma. Let's not count mom and grandma on this. Okay? There are 3 females on planet Earth that I have kissed besides my wife. 3. Which, and comparatively speaking, that's a pretty low number. Some of y'all laugh at me like, 3, what a dork, right? I kissed 3 people by kindergarten. Sorry, I didn't kiss anybody till I was 15. Right? But listen to me. No kidding. To this day, I still physically feel a bond for those 3 young ladies. Now, I'm very blessed in the sense that all 3 of those ladies are friends not only with me, but friends with my wife. And they're all pretty cool and a lot of fun. They're all believers. And so it's, a sweet scenario, right? But if for some reason my wife didn't like any of those 3 females, could that be a problem? Yes. Absolutely, yeah. Now, Becca's incredibly gracious, and thankfully these young ladies are incredibly gracious. Actually, when you hear something kind of just sort of weird, if you want to call it that, there was this youth pastor when I got out to Arizona. I met a bunch of youth pastors, and I met a youth pastor from the total opposite side of the state, and we got to talking about our spouses, and he said his spouse's name, and his wife was one of the girls that I had kissed. Yeah, that was pretty awkward. It was like, oh, yeah, I know your wife. And he's like, I know. He already knew who I was. I didn't know who he was. And he thought it was funny, and I just felt really weird, right? And so I literally apologized to him because I had kissed, they weren't married at the time. They didn't know each other at the time. But when she was 17 and I was 17, I kissed her. And no kidding, I was 29 at the time, I think. I still felt awful about that, right? And part of that is something I'm going to teach you in a little while. It's this principle I'm going to show you in a minute. It's because of what I know now, I did. Not that I felt guilty, but I was just genuinely sorrowful. Not only that I had not protected my lips for my wife someday, but I didn't protect that young lady's lips someday for her husband either. That genuinely broke my heart. Back to the point, guys. When you date right now, because chances are exceptionally good. In fact, statistically speaking, it's 99% certain you are not going to marry the person that you're with right now in high school. 99%. Now that wasn't true 25 years ago. It was more like 65%. But as the world continues to grow and more people go off to college and leave Arlington or leave wherever it is you're from. In fact, 100 years ago, you were probably going to marry somebody that lived within 5 miles of your house. Now, it's possible because Arlington, there's a lot of people within 5 miles. You might still marry somebody within 5 miles of your house. But chances are really good it's not the person you're dating right now. I only say that just to simply say this. There are 3 verses. 3 verses from the Song of Solomon. And they all 3 say the exact same thing. 3 different times, Solomon, the smartest guy to ever live, and one of the women that he married a lot of them, say this. Daughters of Jerusalem, and it is pretty interesting that he talks to the girls. He doesn't ever talk to the guys. Daughters of Jerusalem, I beseech you, which means, please listen to me. Please. I beseech you by the gazelles of the field, which is kind of a funny thing to promise on. But it says, don't awaken love until its proper time. And it's not just talking about like the emotional, the lovey-dovey, like I love him so much thing. It's actually talking about the physical interaction. Solomon, I don't know that he understood the biology behind it, but he understood the principle of when we actually physically touch people, it causes us to have affections for them. And so Solomon, it's interesting, Solomon before he marries this girl, right after he marries this girl, and then not long after he and this particular young lady have their first fight. All 3 times he says, daughters of Jerusalem, listen to me. Please listen to me. Don't awaken love until its proper time. Because love in its proper context is an awesome thing. Love in the improper context can just cause you a lot of pain. Not only in that particular moment, and some of you that have ever had a breakup, you know how badly that hurts, right? If you've never had a breakup, kudos to you. I hope you never do. That would be an amazing thing. My wife can honestly say she's never had a breakup because I'm the only person on planet Earth she ever dated. I'm the only person she's ever kissed. It's just me, right? So she's never been broken up with, and I don't plan on doing that. All right? She might break up with me, but I'm not breaking up with her. But here's the deal. It hurts, and it stinks, and it's painful. And yes, because of the way that we're biologically wired, guys, some of that hurt never goes away. And I don't want that for you, and I promise you, God doesn't want that for you. That's what you got to think about in relation to dating things. Does that make sense? Let's keep rolling. Let's look at this next thing. So here's the fun fact. I want to teach you something about kissing specifically. The Hebrew word for kiss means this. It stands for to kindle and to arm. Okay, and I put some fun pictures up there. Okay, anytime you see little kids kissing, it's cute. You're like, oh, that's cute, right? And actually, I know adults that whenever they see y'all, people your age kissing, they go, oh, that's so cute. And I'm like, no, that's awful, right? The first one's supposed to represent kindling. If you don't know what kindling means, literally it means to light a fire. Okay? If you use kindling to start a campfire, you understand that principle. But yeah, it's the idea of striking a match to start a fire. So arm means to make ready for action. Here's what you got to catch. The Hebrew word for kiss means to kindle and to arm. Guys, it's literally a description of what happens to your body whenever you kiss another individual. For you girls, it's literally warming you up. For you guys, it's literally arming you. If you don't know what that means, again, boys, don't go ask your mom. That's weird, right? Ask your dads. But it means something very specific. Girls, for you, it means something very specific. The point is this. It's what we would call in our day and age foreplay. It's preparing your body for intercourse. Here's what you got to catch. In God's economy, kissing is a part of sex. It's the setup. It's the thing that you do when you're ready to have sex. Intercourse specifically. Now that you know that, and that's the thing that I did not know that when I was 15 years old and I kissed a girl because, well, number one, it sounded fun, but number two, I had a bunch of people say, hey, you got to kiss her, man. That's what you're supposed to do, kiss her, right? You don't kiss her, somebody else is going to. And I didn't want somebody else to, so I kissed her. And yes, it was awesome. Kissing's a really great thing. Turns out that's what God made it to do, right? It's supposed to be fun. Little did I know, again, what I was doing to myself, what I was doing to her, and again, the other 2 young ladies that I kissed as well. Now, when you get married, kiss all you want to. In fact, kiss frequently. It's a good thing. Biologically, it's a very good thing. But you got to know that, guys. It's a part of foreplay. You're releasing oxytocin in your head and you're making your body ready for sex. So this next slide's really important. Since that's true, I have these two verses and this phrase, don't set yourself on fire. Because that's literally what you're doing. I got any pyros in here? Yeah, I like to play with fire. Fire's a pretty great thing. Listen to me. You like to play with fire? Yes. Sure. Fire's cool. Yeah. So here's what's fun. Hey. Here's what's great. When I first asked the question, have I got any pyros in here? There were like 3. We're like, oh, that's me. And then slowly some of the rest of you are like, yeah, I like to play with fire too, right? There's something about fire that's very, very intriguing. Whenever we did our camp out, there were a bunch of you, like you were just staring at the fire. Fire's really, it's an amazing thing. Okay? Fire really is cool. And fire, by the way, it's not good or evil, right? There's nothing inherently good or evil about fire. Fire's a tool. Fire can be used for great things like cooking meat or making you warm or cooking meat or giving you light or cooking meat or making more meat. Fire's the best, right? Or if you're careless, a fire can burn your house down or literally burn your fingers. Fire can be used for a lot of bad things. The point is this. If you want to use the analogy or the simile, guys, sex is just like fire in the sense that sex is not an evil thing. In fact, it's a good thing, but we can use sex in an evil sense, right? We can take this incredible gift that God has given us and we can use it a poor way. And so instead of it being awesome, like it's making your life better, it's actually making your life worse. And so when I say don't set yourself on fire, again, understanding the principle that this is what, not just kissing, again, just reaching out to somebody, but kissing is usually kind of like the ultimate goal. Especially, and I'm going to say this, hopefully you understand, for Christian kids. When I say for Christian kids is, by and large, 6 weeks ago, it's been 8 weeks ago. 8 weeks ago when we started this series, I don't think there were any of you in the room that were shocked when I said that the Bible is against unmarried people having sex. None of you went, really? Wow. Huh, who knew? All of you knew that inherently. Or you've been taught that, not inherently. Inherently means you were born with that knowledge. There's plenty of people who don't know that. That would be really weird if, like, as a baby, you knew I'm supposed to have sex, right? That'd be really weird. None of you were shocked by that fact. And so when I say Christian kids need to know this, when I say Christian kids need to know this, what I'm talking about is this. You know, like, okay, I can't cross that line, so I can't actually have intercourse. But, you know, kissing sounds pretty awesome. Having my hands all over somebody, that's pretty great too. And that's not actually sex. And what I'm telling you is, God doesn't look at as intercourse being the line, guys. And we talked about this a few weeks ago, but I got to lay this for you down again. Your body does not belong to you. And since your body doesn't belong to you, you don't get to share it with whomever you want to, and you don't get to touch whomever you want to. Because your body belongs to God and your spouse someday, and that person that you're lusting after or enjoying physical time with, their body doesn't belong to you. It belongs to God and their spouse someday. So you got to have that mindset. Is not only that person realizes they belong to God, and so I'm going to respect them and treat them in that light. But also I want to honor my spouse. Even though I'm 15, I want to honor my spouse someday. So I'm going to protect what is theirs. So don't set yourself on fire. Both those verses, by the way, literally say flee sexual temptation. It doesn't say endure sexual temptation. Because I promise you need to know this principle. As much fun as holding hands is, and it's really, really great, if you do that for every day for a month, eventually you're going to go, I wonder what the rest of their arm feels like, or I wonder what it would feel like to put my arm around her, or I wonder what her neck feels like, or what are the rest of her body parts. Okay, physical interaction is progressive. And by the way, God designed us that way. You're supposed to want more. This is what God, and again, in a marriage context, if a husband's holding his wife and holding his wife's hand and vice versa, and they get turned on, God says, awesome, go for it, right? That's an excellent thing. That's the way it made you to do. But for those of us that aren't married, we're just setting ourselves on fire. And you inherit in your head, you know, okay, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. But your body's screaming, keep going, this is awesome. So don't set yourself on fire. All right? Let's keep rolling. Go to the next thing. Let's talk about sexting and porn. Again, we talked about porn last week. If you don't know what porn is, that is pictures of naked people, right? Porn specifically, I'm going to define pornography in this sense. I'm talking about adult porn, not child pornography. Sexting for you guys at this particular point in your age, with the exception of, I think there's a couple of you in the room that are 18. Don't hear me say it. It's okay for you if you're 18. For all of you in this room, except for those of you who are 18, if you decided to exchange naked pictures, that's what sexting is, naked pictures of yourself or somebody else that you actually know. If you decide to exchange naked pictures, you need to know not only is that sinful, because again, you are sharing in somebody's body that doesn't belong to you, it belongs to God, but it's absolutely 1,000% illegal too. And yes, at your age, you can be prosecuted, and yes, at your age, it's entirely possible, because you're exchanging what's classified as child pornography, it's entirely possible for you to get slapped with a child sex offender tag, which stays with you for the rest of your life. And yes, I do know teenagers who this is happening to, and it's awful. In fact, thankfully this kid did get prosecuted. One of the weirdest days of my life, one of my students, I don't know if I've told you this story or not, I was texting back and forth with one of the guys in my youth group, and we were talking about a couple of scriptures, which was awesome. And we finished our conversation, and I was with a Bible study group, and I was sitting with a Bible study group, and I got another text message from this young man. So I pulled out my phone to see what the young man had to say, and it was a picture of him naked. And then another picture of him naked came. And I literally, Becca was sitting beside me, what the crap? Like, I'm in the Bible study, what in the world? And they go, what is it? And I said, don't look at my phone, right? Because I knew what was on my phone was incredibly illegal. And I was genuinely terrified, like the FBI was going to come kick the door down in this Bible study and haul me off to jail, right? Here's the deal. I immediately had to go to our local sheriff's office, and I went in and I said, I swear I didn't ask for this. I don't want this. Take my phone. I don't care what you do with it, right? And so the officer was awesome, and he explained, I didn't do anything. What the kid did was wrong, and I didn't do anything wrong. I was like, okay, good. But what's going to happen to this young man? Well, here's the deal. He was sending it to his girlfriend. His girlfriend, by the way, who lived in another state. So now it's not just against Arizona law. Now it's a federal offense because it's crossing state lines. This is a bad, bad deal for him. And the fact that he sent it to adult could have been even worse. Bottom line, at this particular occasion, because it was this was good for this young man. This was the first time he had ever done it. So the cops were gracious to him, and they gave him an incredibly stern, don't ever do this again. We are watching your phone now. If you do it again, we will come after you kind of conversation. And he did not get in trouble. Some other students that I pastored were not so lucky. Okay? So guys, you've got to know it is illegal for you to be exchanging. And by the way, whether it's of you or your girlfriend, or just, because I know this happens too, just if you get a picture of somebody in your school, because sometimes guys, and sometimes girls too, are just jerks and like, hey, look at this, right? Called revenge porn. So-and-so broke up, and so now they're, they send each other pictures, and now I'm going to let everybody see them because they broke my heart, right? If you get one of those, that's illegal too. You've got to know that. So guys, it's sinful, which is a big, big deal, but you got to know you can be prosecuted too, and I want to spare you of that. So if that ever happens to you, because by the way, do you have any control whatsoever what somebody sends to you? None, right? So if you end up in a situation like me where, like, I didn't ask for this, I didn't want this, you do need to speak up and say, go to your parents or go to the police and say, like, this got sent to me, I don't want this. And actually, they're going to, the officers went through my phone and they did the back channels to make sure that I hadn't deleted text messages where I'm telling this kid, hey, send me some pictures, dude, right? They did all of that, and they made sure that I was clear. They're going to do that with your phone too, and then you're fine. They'll delete the pictures, and then they might very well go after that person. You might be thinking, I don't want my friend to get in trouble. I don't want your friend to get in trouble either, but I really don't want you to get in trouble. And if for some reason down the line you didn't report it and things get bad, they will come after you. So you don't have any control of whatever comes to your phone, but you do need to speak up. And by the way, I'm incredibly sorry that this is the world that you live in. Praise God, when I was your age, there was plenty of pornography around. We didn't deal with the sexting issue. That's a brand new thing, and Lord knows what's going to happen in 5 years. I really have no idea. It's going to be holograms. I don't know, but it's going to be really, really sad. What do you got, Coop?
Okay, so I'm not saying that I have this.
Go ahead. You're good.
Okay, so don't go off and assume stuff, but
Yeah.
But what if you get like you didn't send it to anybody, anything, you just have it on your phone, and it's like a new photo of yourself.
Okay, hang on. Shh. Listen. This is a hypothetical. No. Listen. Listen. Guys, babies, please. We still got lots of stuff to cover. Listen. That is a good question. If you just have a naked picture of yourself and you've not sent it to anybody, no, that's not illegal. That is very weird. Don't do that. That's not illegal, all right? So, if you want, you don't need to take a photo. Just go look in the mirror, all right? Okay, we got to keep rolling. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, I say again here, don't set yourself on fire. By the way, if you are consuming pornography, guess that's what's that doing to your body? Again, it's warming you up for sex. You're setting yourselves on fire. Sexting is the same principle, okay? So don't think, well, hey, like nobody's getting hurt and it's not intercourse, so I'm good. No, it's still sinful, but you're also harming yourself dramatically, okay? So don't do that. Here's an important theological word. The word is porneia. Okay, it's a Greek word and it means sexual immorality. Here's what's fun about the phrase sexual immorality. It carries all the instances of sex that are not between a married man and wife. So it doesn't matter what kind of sex you're describing, it doesn't matter what pronoun or ad hominem or whatever descriptor you're going to put on. If it's sex between two people who are not married, gosh, I think it's Leviticus chapter 21 that talks about, no kidding, God goes over explicitly, don't have sex with him, don't have sex with her, don't have sex with it. Yes, it gets into the its. It's really, really descriptive and really pretty gross. All of those things are known as sexual immorality. So it's just one word, porneia. That's really, really important. Yes, ma'am, real fast. Yes, that is legal. It's just like pornography. It doesn't mean it's okay. Again, specifically, if it's two unmarried people that are sending naked pictures of themselves, that's still sin. But no, they're not breaking any laws. Make sense? All right, good question. All right, so there really is. That's an important phrase in word porneia. It means sexual immorality. So let's go to this next slide. We got to talk about homosexuality. But here's the deal. Listen to me very, very carefully. What you're not going to hear me say, listen to me. This is important. You're not going to hear me be flippant about this. This is not a funny thing. I'm not going to make fun of anybody. Okay, there are people that I know and love who experience this thing. It's homosexual attraction. This is a real deal. So we're not going to make jokes. We're not going to throw rocks. We're not going to go, oh, that's gross. Okay? We're not going to do any of that stuff, guys. Yes, throw rocks is in like, just, oh, they're awful people. They're no more awful than I am. And I'm an awful person. Right? So that's kind of the ground rules for this conversation. Here's what we got to talk about homosexuality. And we will talk about this a lot more in depth someday, but I want to cover just sort of the basic basis here, okay? So the question becomes, are homosexual actions okay now that gay marriage is legal? And I've had several conversations with gay people who no kidding, they say, okay, for years they've said, you can't be gay because gays can't get married. Well, hey, we can get married now, so it's cool, right? And what's interesting is a lot of pastors have said, well, I guess so, yeah, go ahead. And then like, they're performing homosexual marriages and blessing that. Here's what you got to know. Right? How many of you have ever seen a law change? A law change. Any law. Actually, just any rule. It was bad to do yesterday, but it's okay to do now. If a rule can change or just disappear, it was a man-made rule, right? So And we change those all the time, like the speed limit, for instance. So I drove to Arkansas yesterday, and the speed limit where I was driving used to be 65, and now it's 75. And by the way, everybody that I was on the road with, they were all driving 80 miles an hour, and I was driving 80 miles an hour too on a 75-mile highway, and we all passed a police officer, and the police officer didn't do anything. Was I breaking the law? Yes. And was that officer being negligent because he wasn't doing his job? Yes. Absolutely. Now this is where we go, well, we just kind of look the other way, and those of you that are on the road are like, I'm kind of glad the officer didn't, they let us drive at 80. I get that too. Here's what you got to know. Guys, regardless of what the attitude of the day is, regardless of what people think is okay or what they feel is okay, and the feeling thing is a big deal. That comes up a lot. And I know people like, I just feel this way. And I've had conversations with people and they say, I know it's wrong, but I just feel this way. And all of us, again, regardless of whether you have a homosexual attraction or heterosexual attraction, or you're just not attracted to anybody, we all get caught up in our own feelings, and we make decisions based on our feelings. And the way that I know that is anytime that you've been hungry. We go eat because we feel hungry, right? We do things all the time based on our feelings. But just because you feel something doesn't mean that it's okay. So what you got to know is this. God's standard on this issue has never changed. Regardless of what any laws passed or what the Supreme Court says or anything, it does not change. In fact, God's laws never change, ever. His standards never differ, which is a good thing, right? So no, just because homosexual marriage is now legal doesn't mean that now it's okay to go have homosexual sex. Now here's the next thing you need to know, and this is a really big deal too. Is it a sin to be gay? No, hang on, stay with me. Stay with me. Because I want to clarify something. This is where we get stumped a lot as Christians. Not stumped, maybe not the right word. This is where we've harmed a lot of people needlessly. When I say someone's gay, and generally speaking, when somebody tells you they're gay, what they mean is they have an attraction for someone of the same sex. And so we automatically, okay, I'm gay. If I were a gay guy, I would say, I like guys, so I'm gay, right? Well, if you want to go that rate, that's fine. But here's what you got to know, and this is a really important distinction. It does not become a sin until you act on that particular temptation. And that's true, by the way, of all of us in this room who were not gay, but you've ever been tempted to have sex with your boyfriend or girlfriend. I didn't do it. I wanted to, but I didn't do it. You didn't sin. By the way, somebody really, really important was tempted one time, and he didn't do it. His name was Jesus. He did not give in to those temptations. He was tempted really, really big temptations, and he didn't give in to those. And it's really important that Jesus was sinless, right? If Jesus is full of sin, then he can't be our Savior. If he's not our Savior, then we're all wasting our time here. So it's not a sin to be tempted. And all of us in this room are going to be tempted before we go to bed tonight with any number of issues. It's not the temptation to sin, whatever that is. Whether you're tempted to look at porn, or you're tempted to have sex with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or you're just tempted to be gluttonous and eat everything that Chick-fil-A has on the menu, even though you know you don't need to, right? Whatever that is. If you're tempted, but you don't give in to the sin, then you haven't sinned. So I say this to simply say there are people that I know who are attracted to people of the same sex, but they've never acted on it. And so they would classify themselves, and lots of people, other people would classify them as gay, but they've never acted on that. So again, it's not being gay, if you want to use that kind of that phraseology. No, in and of itself is not sinful. Does that make sense? Having that temptation is not a sinful thing. And by the way, the world we've lived in, and this is changing more and more, but especially to be a Christian and to have that particular struggle, it's just it's infuriating to individuals that I know. Like, man, why can't I, really just want to go drink a lot, or why can't I just want to murder everybody, right? They would rather be tempted any other way than this particular sin. And not that those other sins I described are better. They're not. But we've made this one sin to be so awful and so ugly and so dirty that when somebody finally admits, I got to wrestle with this thing, we treat those people like crap. And guess what? When we do that, we are every bit as sinful as somebody who is practicing homosexuality. Hear me say it again because that's important. When we treat people like crap because of the things that they're tempted by, we are every bit as sinful as the people who practice homosexuality. So just know this about me, guys. If you ever come to me and you say, like I'm genuinely struggling with homosexuality, or you come to me and you say, what, I'm genuinely struggling with porn, or you come to me and you say, okay, me and so-and-so, we had sex last night. You're not going to hear me say, that's okay, right? But you're also not going to hear me say, you stupid piece of garbage, what's wrong with you? I know what's wrong with you. What's wrong with you is the same thing that's wrong with me. It's that I'm a flawed human being who is prone to rebel against my Father in heaven. And I desperately, every single day of the week, every single moment of every single day, I desperately need Jesus to help me to love Him, and I desperately need Jesus to help me to not sin, and I desperately need Jesus to help me to fight temptation. And by the way, that verse I put up there, and yes, by the way, I put that in a rainbow for a reason. That wasn't me being cute. See, a rainbow is supposed to be a sign of hope, right? That's why God gave it. God put this promise up in the sky as a sign of hope. I will never destroy the earth again. Every time we see a rainbow up in the sky, it's a reminder of God's love and God's promises, and that's a beautiful thing. Okay, the homosexual community has adopted the rainbow for themselves. And a lot of Christians get mad about that, and I'm not even going to bother with that. But here's what I know. Rainbows stand for hope. This verse right here is beautiful, and I want to read it to you because it's so good. And it is a beacon of hope for me. For me. Not for all the homosexuals that I know. It's a beacon of hope for me. Listen to this because it's so good, y'all. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9. If you got a Bible, you need to see this. You need to underline it. You need to highlight it. You need to memorize it. It's so good. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9. Do you not know, and this is going to sound at first like that's hopeful? Hang on. Do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Don't be deceived, neither the sexual immoral, or the idolaters, or the adulterers, or the men who practice homosexuality, nor thieves, nor the greedy, nor the drunkards, nor the revilers, nor the swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God. By the way, it didn't just say homosexuals don't go to heaven. It listed all sorts of sinful people. It listed liars right there beside homosexuals. So on the playing field of sin, it really is all the same. There are different consequences, but all sin leads us to death, and death leads us to hell. But here's the good news, verse 11. This is so awesome, guys. There it is. I lost my spot. Such were some of you, but you were washed, and you were sanctified, and you were justified in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ by the Spirit of our God. Paul just said, hey, these are all problems. Sin is bad. Sin will kill you. Don't do these things. And then Paul, at the end of this long, ugly list of sinners, and Paul says, I praise God because those of you I'm talking to you right now, you used to do this stuff. But Jesus showed up in your life, and He saved you, and He changed your heart, and He made you clean. Sanctified literally means the stuff that you used to be attracted to, you're not attracted to anymore because Christ has changed you. And those of you that He hasn't done that to you yet, He's in the process of changing you still. And He's made you clean so that when God looks at you, He doesn't see the sins you committed. He sees His Son, Jesus. So He looks at you, and He loves you, and He just praises God for you over and over and over again. You used to be awful, but you're not anymore because of Jesus. This is why I say this is a verse full of hope. So regardless of what you've done, hang on, guys, give me just a second, okay? Regardless of what you've done, if you've sinned homosexually, if you've sinned heterosexually, if you've sinned no sexually, okay? And I mean, like when I say no sex, I mean you've never committed intercourse, but you've basically done everything else. Jesus loves you, and He has forgiven you, and He understands your temptation, and He knows how to help you when He wants to. All right, real fast, guys, what's your questions? Sorry, there you go. All of those things you just described. Remember what we talked about earlier? Everything you just described is all still part of homosexual activity. They never had intercourse, but remember we talked about the kissing thing? That's still part of the sex. It's still cuddling and everything. Yeah, that's all part of the process. Yeah. We're going to talk about why in just a second, okay? So hang on to that thought. We got to keep rolling, guys. And again, sometime in the fall, we will go over this issue a lot more because it's a big, big deal. And by the way, I know some of you have gay friends. I know that. And I know you love your gay friends. And by the way, I thank God for that. You need to love your gay friends. You need to love your non-gay friends too. But I say it again. If you don't catch me say anything else tonight, guys, when we treat people like crap because of the things they're tempted by or because of the sins that they've committed, we are every bit as guilty as the people who commit those sins, including, yes, people who commit homosexual sins, right? Let's go to the next one. Here we go. Sex abuse. This is a big deal, all right? Statistically speaking, 1 out of 4 females, so that's all females, not teenagers, 1 out of 4 females on planet Earth right now have experienced some form of sexual abuse. 1 out of 6 guys on planet Earth experience sex abuse of some kind. Now, those stats vary from group to group. Sometimes those numbers are higher, sometimes those numbers lower. But regardless, like if there was only one person on planet Earth being sexually abused, that's a problem. Can we agree on that? When I say sexual abuse, I mean somebody is forcing you to do things sexually you don't want to do. Or they're doing things to you that you don't want them to do. Right? We with those terms? It doesn't have to be rape, it could be molestation. It could be them just touching you, actually just touching you, period, but touching you in a sexual way. Touching body parts they should not be touching. That's sexual abuse. Here's what you need to hear from me, just real fast. And I'm not just you girls, because here's the deal with it. There are lots of guys, in fact, sadly, in churches, generally speaking, it ends up being more guys have been sexually abused than females. It's just guys, we don't talk about it because we're embarrassed. And I'm not asking you to raise your hand. This is not, I just want you to listen to me. Here's what you know about my Savior. Number one, you need to know that even if you were raped, virginity is not something that can be taken from you. Virginity is something that you give away. And I know biologically speaking, virginity, particularly for a female, it means something. I understand that. But I don't know how many girls that I've pastored over the years that something happened to them and they were mistreated. And so when we're talking about these issues, in the back of their mind, they're thinking, well, you know, I wanted to be pure, but then this guy did this to me, and so I guess I don't count. You do. Let me say it again. Virginity is not something that can be taken from you, at least spiritually speaking. It's something that you give away. Does that make sense? The other thing you need to hear is this. I believe with all my heart that God, when he sees somebody that's being sexually abused, I know, and I really like this picture. You see all the shadows? People that I know that have been sexually abused, like they literally feel haunted by those memories, and they're constantly afraid, like, man, they know. Especially if the person they've been abusing them is somebody that they know. They just live with that, and it's horrible. And then they start to think of an evil, and this is what Satan does because he's a piece of crap and I hate him. Satan turns those thoughts, something that they had no control over. Satan turns those thoughts in that person's head, and he says, man, God must just not like you very much. God let this happen to you, and God just doesn't, or you did this to yourself. There's no way that God loves you. And these are thoughts literally that the people who've been sexually abused have. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And so hear me say this, please, please, please. If you are somebody that's been sexually abused, or if you know somebody that's been sexually abused, know, beyond the shadow of a doubt, when Jesus looks at them, he does not see. He sees them differently, but not in the sense like that they're scarred or they're marked or they're awful or they're a little bit less than all the rest of us. Jesus actually looks at them as somebody that's precious and special. And it grieves God's heart to the core. I think especially whenever kids get abused, but just when people get abused, period, it grieves God's heart. And there's this beautiful verse from Revelation. I'll just give you the summation is this. One day, it says this, it says that if you're a sinner, keep sinning. And if you're a righteous person, stay righteous. Because Jesus is coming, and Jesus is going to make all things right. You say, why would he say if you're a sinner, keep sinning? That sounds kind of weird. The idea is Don't think that you can fix yourself by yourself. And by the way, we can't become righteous on our own by ourselves either. How do we get to be righteous? Jesus makes us right. We repent of our sins. We beg God to forgive us, and He does. Right? So if you're a sinner, keep sinning. And if you're righteous, you keep following Jesus. But there is coming a day when Jesus is going to show up, and He's going to fix everything that's wrong. And so you need to know that justice is coming. If you've not already experienced physical justice where police officers came and took that person who hurt you away, maybe it is still a secret. Or maybe you tried to go get that person, you actually went to the authorities and nobody believed you. You need to know Jesus saw that. He knows that He will deal with that someday, I promise. But He loves you and He wants to take care of you, and He will. He does not see you any differently. Not in the negative sense. You become all the more precious to Him. He wants to care for you. Please hear that. Man, check that verse out because it's good stuff. All right, last thing. We're almost done. All right? We've got to talk about marriage. Some of you might honestly say this first question, what if I don't want to get married? Actually, somebody kind of asked a question along this lines last week, and the girl was really, really cool. Like, if I don't want to get married, can I just never have sex? And if you don't want to get married, the answer is no. Right? So, that's like the two go hand in hand. You can go out and have sex if you want to, but as far as biblically speaking goes, if you want to have sex, you need to get married. If you don't want to get married, you don't need to be having sex. But is it sinful for me to not want to get married? Because we kind of make a big deal about marriage, and rightfully so. And you need to know this. Paul, the guy who wrote most of the New Testament, he wasn't married, and he actually says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, I wish that all people were like me. He's like, I'm part of the single club, and you need to come join me. Now, he makes it really clear. He's like, no. Don't go get divorced. If you're married, stay married, and that's awesome. But if you're not married, I want you to think about something. I get to serve Jesus all the time, and I don't ever have to worry about kids. I don't have to worry about taking care of my wife. I just get to go serve Jesus, and it's awesome. So come be like me. But then he goes back on it again. It's sort of, read 1 Corinthians chapter 7. It looks like Paul's losing his mind. It's not. He says, if you're somebody that wants to get married, go get married because it's awesome. But if you don't want to get married, that's okay. But if you're somebody that's really, really tempted to have sex, go get married. And if you're not tempted to have sex at all, then obviously don't get married. It's actually just really, really strategic and logistical, all right? The other question is, well, can I marry whoever I want? And when I say whoever marry who I want, again, we're not talking about the homosexual issue. This is where we get into stuff like, if I'm white, is it okay if I marry a black person? Or is it okay if I marry a Hispanic person? Or if it's okay if I marry somebody that's a little bit of everything, which is actually most of us. We're a little bit of everything anymore, right? By and large. And the answer is absolutely. The one key caveat when it comes to getting married is this. If you know Jesus is the person you're wanting to get married to, do they know Jesus? If they know Jesus and they're following Jesus, and you know Jesus and you're following Jesus, they qualify. You can marry them. And that's really, really simple. There's a couple of other minor conversations come up. But that's the big deal. It doesn't matter what country they're from. It doesn't matter if they're rich or poor. It's even okay if you marry somebody not from Texas. I did that and it worked out pretty good. Right? There's a lot of things that go into that. But yes, you can marry anybody you want, no matter what race they are. They just need to be following Jesus. Now, look at this next slide. Guys, I like to describe marriage as the theater of the gospel. This is why marriage is such a big deal. This is why homosexual marriage is a problem, among other things. Number one, you need to know marriage, actually, the word marriage means something. It's the combining of a female and a man into a perfect union. God was the one who invented it. In fact, you need to know this. Actually, marriage is the last thing that God made on the sixth day. It wasn't Eve, it was marriage. God made that and then He rested. So He's the one that gets to define the terms, right? But when I say it's the theater of the gospel, here's what's really, really cool. The interesting thing about marriage is not the fact that a man and a woman come together and they literally physically become one. That's pretty interesting and a lot of fun. But in our fallen world, for two sinful people to come together and to agree, you know what, no matter what you do, no matter how you fail, no matter how I fail, no matter what comes at us, no matter how awful life gets, I'm committing to you and I'm going to stay with you and I'm going to love you no matter what. When I say it's the theater of the gospel, is Paul in chapter 5, this is where he talks about wives submit to your husbands and husbands love your wives like Christ loves the church. There's this really cool thing going on. And it's synergetic. It works together. A lot of girls don't like that idea of, I've got to obey my husband. I want to do that. And a lot of guys, by the way, well, I don't want to love my wife to death because that's how Christ loved the church, right? But girls, I want you to think about something. Would you have any trouble whatsoever honoring and listening to and obeying a man who just selflessly loved you every single day? Would it be hard to listen to him? I don't mean like he's a pushover. I mean like he just genuinely cherishes you and takes care of you, and he meets your needs, and he always puts you ahead of himself. Would that be a hard man to listen to? No. Some of you are going, that sounds awesome. Where do I get one of those? Right? And the answer is no, that wouldn't be a hard person. On the flip side, guys, I want you to think about something. If you had a wife, and she was somebody that not just listened to you, but genuinely cared for you and helped meet your needs, and when you came home with a bright idea, it was a good idea because again, it's not about you. It's I think this would be really, really great for our family, and your wife looked at you and said, I think that's a great idea too. Let's do it, right? Would you have any problem at all living sacrificially for a woman like that? Notice I didn't say anything about looks. Notice I didn't say anything about riches. I didn't say anything about some of the other deals we make a big deal. Whether in a movie or whether he's goofy or whether he's got acne. I mean, all those things are kind of important, but really not really. This is what God says. This is what matters in a marriage. I'm going to use another term that I think is really, really helpful. Guys, our job in marriage is to be little Jesuses. Be little Jesuses. We're just constantly going around, and girls, your job in a marriage is to be a little church. And the guy's job is to constantly go around to just lovingly sacrifice and bless our little churches. And little churches, it's your job to seek to follow the lead of your little Jesus. And when you do that, I promise you when you do that, you guys know this. You ever seen a super sweet couple in Walmart and you like they just sort of like glowed love? And yeah. It's just something about it's like there's a million people in Walmart, but this little couple, it's almost like they're glowing. And it's not because they're making out or they're being crazy or rude. Like you could just say like those two really love each other. That's amazing. And it makes you wonder, I wonder what's up with them. Guys, in a godly marriage, when you're loving your wife sacrificially, genuinely sacrificially, you are looking out for her best interest first always. And then, yes, your kids too. Girls, when you are lovingly submitting and following your husband's lead. I know this sounds like I'm offering you some stupid math equation like A plus 137 equals ice cream. Like that doesn't sound right at all. Listen to me. Listen to me. But here's what Paul says. Paul says, if you do what I'm talking about, it is a sign to the world. It's a mystery, but it's a sign to the world that this is what Jesus looks like. His relationship with us as human beings is just like that. And by the way, it shouldn't be surprising because Jesus, when he left us, he said, I will be with you always. I will love you always. And he knew when he said that how sinful we are, how bad we're going to screw up. He said, I'm going to be with you always anyway. That's what a picture of marriage is supposed to look like. People will come to know Jesus. Truly. Guys, when you get married someday, if you'll love your wives like Jesus loved the church, and girls, if you will follow your husband's leads like the church is supposed to follow Jesus, we don't always do that so well. Let me show you a picture of Becca and I. This is us the day we got married. If you didn't know this, Becca and I actually got married twice. I don't have time to tell you the story. We eloped. My family and her family were the only people in the auditorium when we got married. That's it. So there were 12 of us. It was awesome. And it wasn't like we didn't run off to Vegas. It was I started my first youth group. We were supposed to, are you taking pictures of me? It's so funny. Started my first youth group, and I didn't want to do it without Becca. And so even though our big wedding day was 6 weeks away, we just got married, and it was awesome. And I love this picture so much. I have no idea what we're laughing about, but we're obviously laughing hard. And that day really was so much fun. And guys, I genuinely want this, because to this day, Becca and I's 15th anniversary is past Saturday. We've been married 15 years. And what's awesome, I'm not making this up, listen to me. We still laugh that hard at each other. Not at each other. With each other. She probably laughs at me. Yeah. But God could not have given me a better wife. Truly. God could have given her a better husband, but he gave me an excellent wife. But man, if there's anything that I want for you, the two things that I genuinely want for you, I want you to know and love and treasure Jesus above all else. But I genuinely want for you to have someday what I have with my Becca. And because it's an incredible gift from God. But here's the deal. Guys, what's going to motivate you to follow God's laws and follow God's standards for sex is not the fear of getting thrown in jail if you mess up. And it's not the fear of an STD. It's not the fear of getting pregnant. It's not the fear of people at church are going to make fun of me if they find out all the things that I've done. Those things are helpful, but they won't keep you from sinning. What will keep you from sinning is a pure, real love for Jesus and a love for your spouse someday. And if I had known when I was your age who God had been preparing for me, I promise you, I would have never kissed anybody but my mom and grandma. Truly. If I'd have known then what I know now, man, I would have, there's a lot of things I would have done differently. Love is what motivates you. So let that be your guide. Right? Guys, I love you. I got to let you go. Lord Jesus, bless your students tonight. I beg you, Father, in Jesus' name, help them to understand that we talked about that. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Guys, I love y'all. We'll see you later.